Hey, let's get into it. There's a subtle drift that kind of happens in almost everybody, especially when life is heavy, when stress piles up, when the outcomes don't match our effort. We begin assigning blame, sometimes towards other people, sometimes ourselves, but often it's towards God. And not always consciously, but we start to feel as if God somehow is behind the confusion and the frustration, the disappointment, behind the things that pull us off course. And James speaks directly to that inner distortion here in James chapter 1, verse 16 and 17. Do not be deceived, my brothers, beloved brothers. Every good gift, every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. James is writing to believers whose lives feel unstable. Remember, they've been pressed out of Jerusalem, chased away because of their faith. They're scattered, they're dispersed around the region. They're living with economic pressure and social tension and just tons of uncertainty. Their faith hasn't removed hardship, which, if we're being honest, sometimes is what we really hope for. And it kind of can create this dangerous vulnerability because when life is difficult, it becomes really easy sometimes to misread God's role in our struggles. But there's an urgency here in James. Do not be deceived, meaning that our instincts are not always trustworthy. Pressure can distort our perception. Fatigue and disappointment can cloud our interpretation, and pain can reshape our conclusions. James is guarding them and he's guarding us from a specific mistake, confusing the source of good and the source of brokenness. One phrase kind of here anchors the whole thing. Every good gift, not random good moments, not the sort of occasional blessing. James is making this comprehensive claim that about reality itself, that anything genuinely good that carries life, provision, growth, all of it finds its origin in God. And then he describes God as the Father of lights. And to the ancient mind here, in James's audience, light was the most stable feature of existence, the sun, the moon, and the stars. But even those things shift, they changed. Um, they produced moving shadows. But God, there is no variation. There is no shifting shadow. There's no instability. His character doesn't fluctuate with our circumstances, which kind of quietly confronts a fear that I think we all carry. That God's generosity and His provision for us, His love for us, and it rises and it falls with our performance, how what we're doing from moment to moment. James insists that God is not, and this is really important, God is not reactive. His goodness is not a mood, it's his nature. And Scripture reinforces the pattern over and over again. Think about Israel in the wilderness. They're hungry, they're uncertain, they're complaining, grumbling all the time. They're interpreting their hardship as his abandonment. Yet the daily provision, the manna and the water, it never stopped. The disciples in the storm are terrified by their circumstances. It seems to signal disaster, but Jesus kind of remains unmoved by their panic. And our interpretation of the moment is not the final authority, how we feel like what God must be doing, which leads to a pretty personal question. Where might you be misreading God right now? Have frustrations begun to feel like divine resistance? Have delays started to look like reluctance? James speaks kind of gently here. So do not be deceived. Difficulty in your life does not signal instability in God. Confusion and disappointment and frustration and hardship and sickness, all those things don't imply a withdrawal of God's goodness. The source of good hasn't changed, even when our situations do. Wherever you find yourself, God goes with you today.